Hey guys, I was trying to do a Facebook Live and apparently my Facebook Live skills are very poor, but I'm working on it and hopefully next week we'll have it up and running. I hope everyone's doing great. This video will also be shared on our YouTube page. So if you want to look for Athena Legal Group PLLC, Oklahoma City, we're on YouTube as well. I plan on sharing all of our videos on YouTube. We do have an Instagram, and you can check everything out on our website, www.thewisedecisions.com. And that's decisions with an S because there's more decisions to make in your life than just one. So, also check out our blog for Money Mondays, which is where we give tips and tricks on saving money, look at your finances, and financial planning. I plan on doing these Q&As on Web Wednesdays, which is where I hopefully can get on Facebook Live and share our questions that I've been getting and some answers with you. And then on future Fridays, which is going to be where we'll be looking at different things to plan for your future, including wills and trusts, estate planning, legacy planning, making sure that your assets and family are protected. We also do some financial planning in there as well. So today I'm going to go ahead and just explore a few of the questions that I've gotten um, to hopefully get some answers out there and give you a little bit of more information. You can always, as I said, visit our website. You can email us at support@athenalegalteam.com and submit a question. On our Facebook page, there is a drop box. It's anonymous, so I never know who's sending us a question, and I can pull those questions off and also try to answer that as well. But so the first topic I'm going to talk about is debt, and that includes debt, bankruptcy, any questions that you have regarding debt, how to get out of debt. You're in debt, what do you do? A family member that needs help. That's what I'm here for, just kind of giving you a bit of information. I do bankruptcy and legacy planning, as I said, which is the estate planning portion. So I focus on debt, bankruptcy, and planning for individuals, and then estate planning. So after we get you out of debt, we try to make sure that you have a good plan for the future and that we have you set up for success. With debt, the first question I have is that this came in through the anonymous Dropbox. It said, creditors are calling all the time. What do I do? Well, that depends. When you say calling all the time, are they calling at all odd hours, 5 a.m.? Are they threatening you? The FDCPA, which is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, is a guideline for debt collectors when collecting a debt. So that guideline provides that those collection agencies are following the law and they're not being abusive, deceptive, or unfair in their debt collection practices. So you want to make sure, under this, the collection agency cannot ask you to pay more than you owe or misinterpret the debt amount that you owe. They can't use obscene, abusive, or profane language while talking to a debtor. I've had clients that tell me that somebody calls them and says that they're going to throw them in jail. They've called them names. They're very abusive. This is all considered harassment. So if anyone is being harassing to you, anytime a debt collector is calling you, I suggest that you have a notebook or something, a Word document or anything that says who they are. You ask them who they are, what company they're with, their badge number or employee ID, and a callback number for them, so that you have all of that information and you can track how many times they're calling. If they're threatening, take notes during the call of what they're saying, what they've been doing, and keep track of that on a continual basis. That way you can make sure that they're not um, actually harassing you, and if they are harassing you, you have a remedy under the FDCPA, and those records are going to help track that remedy for you. If they call repeatedly, that's a harassment. So if they hang up and they call you back and hang up and they call you back and hang up and they call you back, it can be considered as harassment. A debt collector is not allowed to reach you before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. and not on Sunday. So a collector is also not allowed to call your workplace after knowing that your employer does not entertain these calls. So basically, what you want to do is inform them not to contact your workplace because they do not take these calls. So a debt collector cannot threaten or use violent activities against you. I've had them even say that, they're going to beat them up or they're going to send somebody to their house, which is crazy. So they also cannot threaten to sue you, garnish wages, get you fired, spoil your credit report or your score, if they don't actually intend to do those things. So if someone says, "Oh, hey, well, I'm gonna sue you," okay, well, that may not be a violation of the FDCPA because they intend to do that. That's just informing you of the actions that they actually intend to take. But if they continually say that and they don't follow through with it, it can actually be an FDCPA violation. They cannot call a third party. So when calling your employer, they can't just call your employer and start talking to your employer about your debt. They're a third party. That is somebody that you don't owe a debt to. They are not the creditor. They're not your attorney. They're not their attorney. You're not married to them. If you're a minor, they're not your parents. After you are of age, they cannot contact your parents. They should be calling you, and not your parents. And also, if you give them a written cease communication, they can contact you once more via mail to tell you about what their next steps are going to be. So if you say, "Hey, look," and this is written, please, 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 if you're going to do something, put it in writing. Make sure that you're requesting, if you don't believe you owe the debt or if you believe the debt is wrong, ask them for a validation of the debt, and they have to give it to you. If they don't, that can also be a violation because they're not validating the debt. They may not be able to collect on that debt because they failed to validate it. Another question I have gotten is, I owe a ton of creditors, but I don't want to file bankruptcy. Are there other options? Yes, there are other options. They may or may not work for you, and that really depends on what your goals are, what money you have available to pay creditors. There are companies out there that are debt settlement companies. Some people find success with those, some do not, and it just depends on who the creditors are, how much do you owe them, and things like that. With debt settlement companies, they're doing debt negotiation. So all those companies that say, "Oh, hey, join this credit repair group or join our credit settlement group. And what we're doing is you're going to be paying us, and then we have a really great rapport with your creditors, and we'll settle this debt for pennies on the dollar." They may be able to do that, or they may not. Depends. If you have a payday loan, it's unlikely that will be settled for less than the full amount. If you owe certain creditors a lot of money or even a little bit of money, some of them will only settle for 70%. and they'll be paid out over 12 months, or some of them will go a little bit more, a little bit less. It just really depends. There is no guarantee with debt settlement or debt negotiation that they will be successful. And you need to be aware of that before going forward. If someone is promising you that they can guarantee that they'll be able to settle all of your accounts, you may want to run the other direction, because there is no guarantee. Just like if you sue somebody in court, there's no guarantee you're going to win. Hopefully, you have the evidence that can support that, you should win, but you may not. It's the same thing with debt settlement and debt negotiation. If you know you owe them money, or you owe them some money, we can always request a debt validation, and then you can go through it and make certain that all the charges are correct. Credit counseling is another option that some people use, and what that basically is it is a lot of it can be free. There are free resources out there where you can go to a credit counselor, and they're going to go over things with you and look at your budget, see if you're properly budgeting, going over the different options of paying off bills and snowballing versus, stacking and things like that. They're going to go over those options with you. And maybe you've already considered that and that's not an option. Bankruptcy, the first thing I want to say is bankruptcy is not a foul word. It is there to help people get a fresh start, and especially when things have happened to them. COVID-19 is a big one. A lot of things where even some of the credit card companies are telling you, oh, well, you don't have to make your minimum payments, but we're still going to charge you 25% interest. So what they're doing is kind of putting you in the position where you're making a choice of, okay, well, do I want to pay down that debt a little bit and hopefully not have as much interest? Or do I need to explore other options? We will always go over all of the options with you. I will never force you to make a decision on which one is best. Bankruptcy is a clean slate. It starts you fresh. There are some debts that are not dischargeable, such as student loans. They're pretty hard to get discharged, so uh, you have to show that no matter what, you will never, ever, 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 ever be able to pay them back. And alimony or child support, those are family debts or domestic debts that are not dischargeable. Certain taxes are not dischargeable, and things like that. So you want to make sure that you're not filing bankruptcy because you have $20,000 in tax debt. We're probably going to explore a different option of possibly a tax attorney to see if you can work out something with the IRS. Another question that I've gotten in the area of debt is, if I file bankruptcy, will I lose my house or my car? And a lot of people have that misconception. So bankruptcy, I picture bankruptcy as like a huge pot. And what you're doing is you're taking all your debts and all your assets and you're tossing them in the pot. But what happens is you are eligible for certain exemptions, and your exempt items get pulled out of the pot. So if you owe on your house and you're upside down and you never, ever, ever want to pay that again, and you say, you know what, I'm just going to rent. We want to leave it. We want to give it back to the bank and be done with it. You can. You can take it out of the pot. You can look at it and say, I don't want to keep this. Throw it back in. Same thing with your car. Now, if you are over the exemption amount, we better have a good reason for it. So if you have a Ferrari sitting in your driveway, the trustee is going to look at that and say, well, that's an asset that is way over the value of what you are exempt. So why should we let you keep that? And that's an understandable question, because if you sold that, you may be able to pay your debts. So that may be an asset that they tell you you are not exempt. That stays in the pot. We're going to sell it for the benefit of your creditors. Now, if it's not in great condition, or it's only worth $10,000 and you get a $7,000 credit as your exemption, things like that, we can look at and see what's going on and what can we do. But if you're living in a $500,000 home and you are paid off, you have a $500,000 asset. Well, Oklahoma exemption is not $500,000. So that's something, again, that they're going to look at. Another question is, my credit report is wrong. Is there anything I can do? Why, yes, there absolutely is. There's several things you can do regarding your credit report being wrong. You can dispute it with the credit reporting agencies and tell them, hey, these are wrong and they have so long to fix it. Or if it's something that's very egregious, where somebody's been reporting that you were delinquent for a very long time and you paid that off, that also could be a Fair Credit Reporting Act violation. So we can always look at that and see if there's a violation there where that needs to be updated. After you file bankruptcy, you can pull your credit after about 3 months. Same thing with debt settlement and debt negotiation. If you have something settled and you're paying on it as agreed, that should be updated on your credit report. Moving on to estate planning. So here I am with an estate. Everybody has an estate, whether or not it's a big estate. It really just varies. So you may have a home and some children and think, oh, I don't need estate planning, but you do. Everybody needs estate planning. So it's easier when you're younger and you don't have children and you start out with just, let's start our estate plan and it's going to grow with us along with our legacy. Lots of people think, oh, estate planning is just for everyone who's old. That is not true. What you want to do, throughout your life, your estate grows, your plan grows, your legacy grows, your life changes, and all of these things change with you. Estate plans can be very cheap and not do what you need them to do. They can be very complex. It really just depends on what your goals are. At the end of the day, you need some sort of legacy plan, something that preserves your thoughts, feelings, assets, and everything. Is your goal to take your estate and protect it against creditors? Maybe. Or is it, oh, my kids are grown. If I were to die, they're grown and married. So if I were to die, I want to make sure that my estate that passes on to them prevents, if they get into a divorce, that home can't go to them. If you have minor children, who do you want to be guardians? Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, my parents. Well, if there's two of you, which set of parents? Is there going to be a visitation schedule with the other parents that you want to have happen? Do you want your wishes? Do you want them raised in a certain way? Do you want someone completely excluded from taking care of your children? And I don't mean like overnight, like Aunt Nancy over here, who's just crazy and wild, and you don't want her to raise your kids, but you don't mind if they go spend a week at her farm. I'm saying, is there somebody you want exempted from long-term care of them? Are you a family that lives out of state from your family. So if something were to happen to you and there's just a babysitter there and you never come home, um, what's going to happen? If you are just stuck somewhere, say if you were quarantined for COVID, you were traveling, ended up quarantined for COVID, that's 2 weeks. Where are your children going to go? Who's going to take care of them? What needs to be done? Those are part of important planning as well. In addition to that, you want to look at, are there things that you want to make sure that your spouse, your family, your parents don't fight about? Do you want to make sure that you're not on a ventilator, or do you want to make sure that if two people determine you brain dead, that you want to have life support pulled? Do you want to make sure that your organs are donated? Things like that. Those are also part of proper planning. There's trusts. Everybody wants to know what a trust is. It always sounds like something that, somebody who's rich and lives on a trust fund and does all that fancy stuff. Lots of regular people use trusts as well. Basically, what a trust does is a trust takes possession of your property. So if your home is in the trust, that is now the home of the trust. There are also special needs trusts for people who are disabled or on, Medicare or Medicaid and things like that. And you want to make sure that they're being taken care of or they don't lose benefits and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things. Our blog will be delving more into trusts and what they are and how they work and how they function. You might be good with just a will. You may not care if your family has to do probate, or you may want to avoid probate at all costs. The one thing I can say is that you do want, yes, you can go to LegalZoom, you can go to Rocket Lawyer or any of that and get documents like trusts and wills and things like that. But you should have an attorney do them. And here's why. At the end of the day, these are the documents that are going to last you, hopefully a lifetime, change with you. Get someone that is your family lawyer. Somebody that is dedicated to making sure that what you want happens. Not a automated system that fills in the blank for you. And I've had clients who put, I want my stuff to go to Stacy and or John. Well, that doesn't work. You can't have, this isn't a car title. You can't have and or on your documents. It needs to be clear. No ambiguous, nothing crazy out there. Now, if you want someone take care of your pets, you can have a pet trust. We do things like pet nups, which is if you were to divorce, who gets the dog? That's your fur baby. So somebody may want to make sure that they're getting the pet, and pet nups take care of that. In addition, you want to make sure that your kids are taken care of. Whether they are minors or if they have a special need, you want to make sure that there's things out there. You want to talk to attorneys about able accounts and stable accounts. Those are ways that you can save money for long term. So if you have a disability that was under the age of 26 and it was established, or you can show that you've been disabled since before the age of 26, you could have an account and you can save money. It used to be you can't have more than, $2,000 in your account, and we're forcing poverty on everybody. And that is a completely ridiculous plan. Now, have we fixed that? No. I won't say that the government has fixed it and made it to where you can have a better plan, But we have ways that we can assess this and ways that we can help you and make sure your family's being taken care of, that you're being taken care of, or anywhere in between, that your mother's being taken care of, or anything like that. Hospice care. I always say, that's part of planning too. Nobody wants to plan for it, but let's go ahead and get it out there. Everybody thinks of estate planning as if you talk about it, you're going to die. Well, hate to break it to you, everybody's going to die at some point. We're not immortal. Not any vampires that I know of. Who knows? But you're not going to live forever. And the peace of mind that you can have of that's already taken care of can stop a lot of fighting, a lot of heartache, a lot of money being wasted just by being prepared. And what you want to do is, you don't ever want your kids to be in the care of DHS, Child Protective Services, the Department of Health and Human Services, or any of that stuff. You want the care of your children to be in the person that you trust the most. That's probably your spouse, or maybe the father of your children, or things like that. But if it isn't, and you're a single parent, that's one thing to consider. Even if you're a couple, you guys need to have a meeting of the minds. You need to make sure that everyone's taken care of and everyone is on the same page. There's a same plan. There's nothing that says that, the two of you can't be on a plane when it crashes. Unfortunately, that happens. It's devastating for families, and you don't need to add to the devastation. So please, 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 if you don't contact us, contact somebody and start your planning. Most places start at like 1,500 and more. And while that sounds like a lot of money, start saving now. Put a little bit aside, a little bit aside, a little bit aside, and just save the money in order to have a proper legacy plan. We want you to pass on who you are and who you want your children to be, your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. And we want that to pass on to your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren, and really get a feel of who their family is. Ancestry.com, huge these days because people want that connection. And we want you to pass it on and them not have to look at Ancestry.com to find out who their family really was. We want that for you. And that's what our legacy planning is about. So if you have any questions, please visit our Facebook page. There's an anonymous drop box there. Drop me a line, drop me a message. If you want to shoot a Facebook message, that's fine too. And we'll get back to you as soon as possible. I try to answer questions on our Facebook page. We have a couple of groups as well. So if you want to join one of the groups, there's a budgeting and money group where if you want to join it, start with tips and tricks and things like that. And please, please, please think about, your future, your financial future, life insurance and savings and things like that. And what do you want your legacy to be? And contact us today. And hopefully we can help you plan your future that works for you and your family. Have a safe and wonderful day. And I hope to see you guys. And like I said, hopefully we'll be able to do a Facebook Live, be a little bit more interactive. You can shoot me messages during. I'll answer live Q&A. But until then, be safe, take care of you and your family, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your summer.